episode of Reviewers Assemble. This is a special episode. We are doing a little early for Black Panther because of some recent events with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. Of course, just off the bat, I don't think I have to really say this, but our condolences and deepest sympathies go out to the Boseman family and everyone involved in that. I'm sure everyone's seen the stories about how an amazing human he was. So, we moved Black Panther up, so just kind of a special episode here. We're going a little out of order, but I'm joined once again by Victor here, who's been here, and Garrett's back for this week. So thank you for joining us again for Reviewers Assemble. We're doing Black Panther today. This one might be a little bit different, but Vic, if you want to kind of start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. So normally, guys, we like to do a quick review about the movie and the overall summary of what happened in Black Panther. But first and foremost, we know that right now in 2020, we're in a weird place between the Black Lives Matter movement, coronavirus. This one definitely hits home, not just for the Black community in general during a tough time, but I think for everybody in general. Because when you look at Chadwick Boseman and you take everything he's done on film and everything off film, he's been an inspirational guy. Some of you may have heard one of his first big roles was in a soap opera. And after his second episode of being stereotyped as a black guy, as a gangster type guy, as a villain type guy, he asked the director, is this the role you're going to keep me in for the rest of the season? And they didn't really answer. So he filmed one more episode and then they cut him from the show because he kind of stood up for his beliefs and he didn't want to be stereotyped. He knew he was better than that. And when you look at every piece of art that he's been in, from playing James Brown, Jackie Robinson, the Black Panther, and we're going to dive more in depth as to not just the Black Panther, but King T'Challa himself and how he carries his character, how inspirational he is as just a Black leader, but also just a great man in society and someone that we're going to miss greatly. It's very heartbreaking to see such a great leading, great speaking individual who his morals and ethics have always, led the right way. And, we're obviously all going to miss him. Let's try to not, only remember him for what he did on screen, but remember him for what he did off screen. And he truly was a great, great Black American guy. And we appreciate everything he's done for, the Black community and the country overall. So anyway, I wanted to leave you with one quote that ends the movie with the post-credit scenes that he spoke about, and I think it was more of a passion thing from him in the country nowadays, not just for the movie. So his quote in the post-credit was, "Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows. We cannot, we must not. We will work to be an example of how we, as brothers and sisters on this earth, should treat each other. Now more than ever, the illusions of division threaten our very existence. We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us, but in times of crisis, the wise build bridges while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe." And I think right now, where we're at in 2020, that really hits deep. And, I don't want to get into political stuff, but, I think unity across our country could really, bring us a far way. So, back to Black Panther, we'll get out of the emotional stuff. So we skipped ahead, like Kyle mentioned. 7 movies? I think it was something crazy like that.
Yeah, we if we do a little count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, probably like 9 movies.
So we skipped ahead of the MCU universe because obviously of Chadwick Boseman's passing, in honor of him, and we didn't even hesitate. Our group text, we said we got to do it, and everyone agreed, not even a hesitation. So Black Panther was actually introduced in Civil War previous to this, where his father was killed by a
bomb.
Yeah, Slovenian or whatever he was. Where was he?
Well, they originally framed Bucky for it.
Yeah, they framed someone else for it, but he was killed, and that's when Black Panther or Prince T'Challa became King T'Challa, and that's when he was introduced. So go back to Black Panther, kind of leads off with him being honored as the new king of Wakanda. We get to see all the scientific, the tribes, the technology, all the stuff with Wakanda. It's beautiful. It's beyond our years, things that we could never even imagine, but not even just weapons, but the technology, the flights, everything they do is just amazing. And we find out some family history. and his cousin ends up wanting to come back after some turmoil, which we're all going to touch on as we go on this, and I'll get more in depth with that stuff as well. There becomes a rivalry between the two cousins, and he gets dethroned for a little while, and then he makes his comeback, and he takes his throne back, and he leads his people again. So, amazing action movie, tons of emotions from family stuff to relationship stuff. A little bit of comedy in there. The relationship with with Shuri, his sister. Overall, a great movie. When we talk about best scenes, as we're going to talk about right now, I think we're all going to stutter and fumble because there's
a lot of.
I could say 3 or 4 best scenes and rank them equally. So, Garrett, I'm sure you have one in mind. What do you think of your best scene overall?
So my best scene overall, I'm sure one of you guys has it, but it's not. I'm going to go slightly before the scene. The scene right where Killmonger enters the throne room and challenges for the throne and wants to be the Black Panther. He says, the world has been oppressed, black people have been oppressed because they don't have the technology, they don't have the resources to fight back. And I really that scene kind of hit home, and I was like, you know what, that's right. Like, Wakanda has kind of been hiding. They've been hiding this technology. They haven't been helping their own people during times of crisis in the world, and he's here because he sees the injustice in the world and he knows about this technology and he wants to bring it out, and he challenges for the throne and to be the next Black Panther and to be king of Wakanda. And I think this is probably the most pivotal scene in the movie because towards the end, and we'll probably talk about it later, you'll see that even still Chadwick Boseman, obviously R.I.P., realized what Killmonger wanted to do, and in the end scene kind of started to take a realistic turn towards helping the black community in the real world, not just in Wakanda. And so I think that was the pivotal scene in the movie where kind of the agenda changed and some new light was brought in from the outside world and not just through the worlds of Wakanda.
Yeah, to your point, Garrett, it's kind of crazy because when we first see Chadwick and Michael B. Jordan's character Killmonger, they go at each other, and Chadwick can't believe, he thinks Killmonger's a monster and all these things. But I think to agree with your point, watching this movie again, I know Vic might feel a little bit differently about Killmonger's character, but he was making these points where he's like you said, all these black people have been oppressed. In the movie, Wakanda is a third world country because it's really cool because they're hidden in plain sight, where they have some sort of stealth option where it's just trees, but they go in there and it's Wakanda, which is a cool reveal. But he says all these people have wanted to rise up, but they haven't had the resources, they haven't had the technology, like you said, Garrett. And it's when I was watching this, I was like, wow, it's crazy to think putting in a real world situation. And this is what I think is cool about this movie, is that it's really realistic. I mean, obviously there's a stretch of fantasy with the vibranium and the technology, and we see Andy Serkis's character with the arm cannon and stuff, but it kind of makes you think if the oppressed people had more power, would history be different? I mean, if you just think back to the slaves, you get the slaves that, I mean, let's not even say vibranium or Wakandan power, but just something similar where they can overthrow their the masters. I mean, history is probably a whole different. The world is probably much different than it is today. So I really like that side of Killmonger, where it's he's trying to give the power to the people that really need it, instead of being oppressed and fighting against that. A couple of best scenes for me, I think the car scene is one of the first things I think of, where Shuri, is that her name?
Shuri.
The sister. She gets in the virtual car, and even going back to that, I love when he's picking out the suits, and she's like, you need a new suit. And she's like, oh yeah, let me wait while I put on my helmet before you shoot me. And she's like, no, put on these necklaces. And there's 3 options. And then she's like, this is going to go right to your suit. And it's all digitized, and it's really cool. I thought that was really cool, just to show, we see in this whole movie that Wakanda's technology is worlds above
crazy
anything else. And all we see at this point is Cap's shield out of vibranium. But that's just a shield. They're using vibranium to its max
whole country is based off it, or the whole civilization.
They're kind of the most powerful, not even country really, but the most powerful portion on the planet. and they're hidden in plain sight, really. So yeah, the car scene I thought was cool. The suit, like Vic said, there's a lot of scenes in here, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down. I thought the club scene was awesome. Really, really cool aesthetically, where they're playing. Is it Kendrick?
Yeah, and they got a little roulette
Or maybe the
going,
Weekend.
or
It might be the Weekend.
I forget what
That
it.
song.
Kind
It's
of
like
a
the
back
Black
alley
Panther song.
casino.
Yeah, they go in, and that's where we get Martin Freeman's character. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much and dominate the conversation here. But like, there are so many scenes. Like we said, I loved the Killmonger scene where he's burning the stuff that takes away the Black Panther power. Because he says like, "Oh, burn all this," because
And gives the Black Panther.
they're like,
power,
"Well, no,
There won't be another Black Panther or something. He says.
Oh,
like
is
that.
it what gives it?
It's
oh
what
yeah,
gives the
sorry,
power,
it's,
yeah.
it's what gives the Black Panther the power because eventually they find Chadwick and give him that. But I thought that was really cool because he's like, why do you have all these crops? And they're like, well, if there's another king, we need to be ready. And he's like, no, there's not going to be another king.
Yeah.
He like pulls up, he the
chokes
woman.
the woman.
Yeah, he
pretty
chokes
much,
her, and he says like, when I say some shit, you better do
I
it.
mean it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a really cool line there, and he's like, burn it all, and there's like a awesome pan where like I love that scene where like it's like behind Michael B. Jordan's character, and it's like everything is burning and the music's going. But yeah, those are just a few of my favorite scenes.
So, for me, and I love to play two scenes at a time, but I'm only gonna pick one. When King T'Challa is getting honored as the king, and he's going through that ceremony, and they got the different tribes there, and M'Baku shows up to challenge him to be the king, and it's a great fight. Gets a little shaky for a minute. It almost seems like he could actually lose. And going back to Chadwick Boseman as an individual, I think his personality really reflected who King T'Challa was, not just Black Panther, because he could have killed M'Baku. And I remember him specifically saying, "Your people need you. Don't die today. Yield, yield, yield." And he kept begging him to yield instead of killing him, because he knew at that point in time it was yield or die. And he didn't want to kill him. He knows he's a good leader for his people up in the mountains, and that just showed his compassion for not just his closer Wakanda people, but for the overall Wakanda wellness, and for the people that are up in the mountains. They know that they need M'Baku, and again, that just reflects on Chadwick Boseman again as to what his character is, as a human, not just an actor. So that one kind of hit me deep, and throughout the whole movie, you see very similar characteristics throughout the whole thing. So. I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna jump right in because I'm on the emotional side. So worst scene for me, because we went through our best scenes, and we were just talking about it as we watched it. At the end, after Black Panther kills or defeats Killmonger, and they're cousins. Throughout the whole movie, T'Challa kind of shows that he's upset with his father's decisions to abandon this young boy. And that's why Killmonger was so upset, is he was abandoned. His father was killed by his uncle. Like, he's very upset emotionally, like we all would be with our family lives. And King T'Challa, as a young king, he knows that and understands it. So at the end, when he finally beats him and he stabs him, in the chest or lower, upper abdomen, whatever it is, he's dying if we're in Earth. But he knows that he can save him, and he offers to save him. And for me, the worst part about that scene is, Michael B. Jordan says, no, don't save me, throw me in the ocean like my ancestors, when they were slaves or whatever.
He said he'd rather face death than be bonded, or
instead of being like held in prison. But in my mind, T'Challa shows so much forgiveness and compassion and empathy for his family member, because he knows they're blood cousins, that in my mind I could have seen them fixing that relationship and having a conversation, and T'Challa just saying, no, I'm saving you, just like they saved Bucky after Civil War. So that for me, it's not a bad scene. It's actually a really emotional scene, but it's just a bad script, I guess. I would have loved to see Michael B. Jordan be in the next Black Panther or be carried out, because he's a big name and he was a big character.
It's kind of a waste. I think the MCU kind of has a bit of a problem with killing off some of the really good characters.
Yeah.
Between Jeff Bridges and Iron Man 1 and I feel like there's another one, but I can't think of it right now.
Mickey Rourke kind of.
Mickey Rourke, yeah, we love Mickey Rourke, and it's these characters that are so great in these movies, and like, yeah, there's potential for like a return or like a sub story or something, and it's like they just get killed off, and it's like it just feels like a lost opportunity.
So I kind of stole the spotlight again for a second, but what do you guys think for your worst scenes?
The worst scene, I think what sticks out for me, number one, is like that whole sequence with Martin Freeman where he gets in the jet at the end where he's fighting.
Like the virtual.
Martin Freeman is a great actor, but like I just hated his role in this movie, which we might get into in a little bit for a different category.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought the whole scene was like he's like flying this plane. I don't know if he's supposed to be like a distraction or what's gonna happen there, but I didn't like that. I don't know. There's not too many scenes I didn't like, honestly.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. What about you, Garrett?
Yeah, not a lot of bad scenes to choose from. I chose. I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. That has the arm with the cannon.
Oh, Andy Serkis's character.
Yeah.
A Claw.
Claw. That's what they call him. And so they capture Claw. They put him in an interrogation room, and King T'Challa is there, and he's like talking to Agent Ross, and they're like, and he's like, "Don't worry, I'll handle this. I'll go in there and I'll talk to him." And it's like, well, this guy has stuff that you're not familiar with, and you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
Should probably let him go in there and talk to him. And then they end up basically exploding the wall, freeing him and all that, and they extracted almost no information out of him. And I really, that kind of really irritated me because they especially King T'Challa even took the situation kind of lightly, and I didn't understand that because I was like, all right, you guys have this guy that just ran you around Korea and in a shooting fight, and then you finally have him, and you're gonna send this guy in there who doesn't even know what vibranium is to interrogate him.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like the right play, and they allowed it, and they knew it wasn't the right play. They kind of laughed it off and looked at each other like, all right, let him go have his fun. And then everything kind of backfired. I thought that was kind of not a bad scene, but just a bad move by them.
It was poor writing, I think. If you remember, Andy Serkis' character Claw, he like starts revealing everything about Wakanda.
Clue.
He's like
Clue.
His name is Clue.
Something
I think
like
it's
that.
Claw. Maybe if you want to look it up.
I think it was Claw.
But like in that scene, he starts telling Martin Freeman's character like all about Wakanda. He's like, because Martin Freeman is like, oh, you took all of their Wakanda. He's like, all of their Wakanda. He's like, or all their vibranium. He's like, dude, they have way more.
Yeah.
But he starts to say like, they're hidden in plain sight, blah blah. And then like Black Panther starts to get a little nervous because he's like, this dude's telling all of our secrets.
Yep.
But it seemed like a really poor choice to send this guy in who has no clue, like you said.
Send this guy in who has no clue, and then also he gets exposed and gets told about.
He almost dies. They have to save his life.
It just King T'Challa should have been like, no, I'm gonna handle this. I'm gonna go in there, or we gotta get this guy out of here.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna take him back to Wakanda and go from there.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite ready to be a leader yet at that point.
At that point, no. It seemed a little shaky.
Yeah.
My strongest Avenger, and pains me to say this in this movie because Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P., is truly a generational talent and someone who's done a lot in his own acting career and in the community. But I just think Michael B. Jordan is such a polarizing figure that taking the context of the real world out of this right now and only focusing on the film, I go with Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger because I think in the scene where he beats Chadwick Boseman, King T'Challa, and he's kind of pushing him down, is this your king? He really, for a likable guy, makes you hate him.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, I really want this guy to lose. And so I thought that was just an incredible performance. He has the right intentions. He's out for vengeance. You don't know, like you kind of agree with him, but you don't like him for it. And I think that's such a great balance for him. And he comes to power and he's kind of, an asshole. And then it's just the balance of everything that he is as a character in this movie, I think was a really good job. And I thought it flowed really well. And I think he's probably my strongest Avenger.
Yeah, I'm just going to branch right off of Garrett said. 100% for me, it's Michael B. Jordan. It's Killmonger in this movie. There's just so many scenes like I thought were great. Like we talked about the where he's burning the crop scene. What's cool, I think, about the story is that when Michael B first comes on, you think he's like this monster. You think like this dude is like kind of an asshole. He's looking to take over everything, and then we get that eventual flashback scene where he was actually with the kids playing basketball in the beginning, where the uncle is like stealing the vibranium
on the floor.
Yeah, so I think you said it, Vic, when we were talking off camera. Like he gets left behind, like like an orphan, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Michael B is like out, like you said here, out for revenge. Where like this guy's just not like a one-dimensional villain. Like he's got a purpose. Really quick, sorry, going back to best scenes, I didn't even think about this when we were going over it. When Michael B comes in like the chains, or he's like a prisoner, and then he says like, say my name, and they don't want to say his name, and like, get out of here, and then one dude says his name, and then that's when he reveals like, I am from Wakanda, and like all this crazy stuff. I think they're cousins, right? Is that what we?
Yep.
Yeah, which is cool because there's a family connection there, which makes the end scene even crazier. But yeah, Michael B is just like, and I think subconsciously I'd probably factor in his other roles. Like, I just watched the one with Jamie Foxx, and he's a death row lawyer.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm completely blanking on the name, but
Just Mercy.
Just Mercy, yeah. Watched that really, really good movie. Michael B is awesome in that movie. I think of like Creed, he's awesome in. Michael B is just like, he's got so many good roles, and so like as an actor, I think his character is a little bit different. He's almost like kind of a punk in a way in this movie, where his lines are, he's really cocky.
Yeah.
Like, you can see how cocky he is and how arrogant he is. And that's kind of a different role for him, I think, other than what he normally plays. But I think he's just like, kind of like Garrett said, like he's just such a high caliber actor, where it's like all of his scenes I thought were good. And I don't think Chadwick was bad by any means, but Chadwick I think was a little one-dimensional, where he plays like the good guy, the protagonist. We do see an arc where he kind of like learns to become a leader. But I thought Michael B brought more to the table, and I thought there was more complexity to his character, which is kind of why, like, eventually when we get to it, Thanos, like, I think why he's so good, why he's the best MCU villain, is because, like, you actually kind of feel for him and like, see his journey that he goes through. And I think Michael B kind of reminded me of that in this one here. So, yeah, my strongest Avenger for sure.
So, for me, I disagree with you guys. And it's not an acting thing, it's a writing thing. So, for me, Michael B. Jordan is a trained soldier, like like elite of elite special ops guy. He also, at 8, 9, 10 years old, when his father was killed, figured out everything about Wakanda. From 10 to his early mid-20s, he figured everything out about Wakanda, how to get there, who was looking to sell and steal vibranium, you know, who the king was. He knew everything about it without ever visiting there, and without his father ever giving him any history. So he is a brilliant man. He is a trained, well-versed soldier, and he's so, like, he's got so much revenge and anger in his heart, and it just, for me, it doesn't add up. Like, in my mind, and I guess this because I'm very, Chadwick heavy on this movie, in my mind, he should have walked into Wakanda and introduced himself as his cousin and been whatever a cousin to a king is, the prince, or whatever he would be considered, and he should have lived this glorious life right by his cousin's side. And that's like, maybe that's my soft side, being emotional today, but do you get what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know if I've ever seen soft side.
I know, I don't really have a soft side, but
who is this man?
For me, that's why, like, I liked his acting. Like, he's got some bold scenes and some badass scenes for sure. And you're right, he does have some good intentions down the road. But the full, like, takeover and how he, like, bullies his way through, it kind of pissed me off. It was a little over the top. It didn't make sense for how smart and educated he was. So for me, overall, I agree with Kyle a little bit that, King T'Challa, Chadwick, was a little one-dimensional in a sense. But his growth throughout the movie was amazing. And you saw he freezes at the beginning over his girlfriend, I never freeze. He says that, and you see from that moment to grow into saving Sherry's life from Killmonger, his sister, and all of that. Honestly, I don't know if it's the emotions of his passing or what, but he really was great in this. I think Black Panther coming out was unbelievable for MCU, for the Avengers, for the Black community overall. I mean, Black directed, 90% Black acted, if not 99% Black acted. I mean, A phenomenal movie. So much power to the Black community. I love to see it. I loved it in theaters. I loved it even more when we rewatched it today. So, Chadwick Boseman, definitely my strongest Avenger. Garrett, do you have a weakest Avenger? It's weird because I don't see a weakest Avenger personally, but
Baby arms.
sorry, baby arms, weakest Avenger.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a lot of weak
No.
or baby arms in this movie. That's why I'm going with somebody who maybe had 2 lines the entire movie. And anyone who's seen it will know it's the guy with the lip ring, giant green medallion, who just kind of stands in the background.
In my favorite scene, in the M'Baku scene.
Yep.
Yeah,
And he just stands in the background. And then if you notice in other scenes, especially in Killmonger fighting King T'Challa for the throne, he's just standing back there. Everyone is in like their Wakandan attire. The scene feels genuine. And then you just see this guy standing there in a bright green, kind of shiny, fluorescent tuxedo. And I don't know what it was, but it distracted me from the moment.
Broke the immersion.
It took me out of the seriousness of the scene.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, all right, I don't know what this guy's doing here. You know, the whole movie's based upon 5 tribes that were on top of this land that the vibranium asteroid landed on, and they came together except for one tribe. So maybe this has something to do with the culture of that tribe that I'm just not aware of with the green, but it just threw me off and it took away from a couple moments. I thought that was easily my baby arms, just because there wasn't much else to choose from. There was a couple other people, but this one here I was frustrated with. I was like, this guy has no place in this movie. We should just ignore him. He's a distraction.
Yeah, no,
Fair.
I agree, Garrett. To your point, that's the one guy we talked about this off camera a little bit, where like I thought especially that scene, Vic, which is such a cool scene with their fight where T'Challa initially challenges, and they have the whole like ritual. Not to go back to the best scenes over and over again, but like there are so many good scenes in this movie where I think it's kind of, if we have a little bit different format, it's not a big deal. That scene is so cool in the waterfall where they're all like, don't they have like the soldiers like
they keep them
narrowing
close
in?
together.
Everyone's
And there's a waterfall, and it's like you can't escape because you're going to die if you fall off, so you have to fight to the death, which we think. But yeah, that scene they're showing different tribes, and Chadwick takes the serum or whatever, and it says like, you are now going to lose the Black Panther, which I thought was really cool, because it's like, oh, they're just like, it would be one thing to fight as Black Panther, but to fight for the king or to fight for the crown, you have to literally just be a man, and like it's just man against man, and I thought that was really cool. But yeah, they're showing all the different tribes, and I was like, wow, this is really cool design. This is a cool design. Awesome. Really feels authentic. And then, like you said, Garrett, they just panned to that dude, and I'm like, immediately took me out of it. I was like, this looks so stupid. And like, you can have different varied designs, and like, I'm all for creativity, but like this, I think was just a huge miss, where I was just like, I couldn't believe how, like, it just looks dumb. And like you said, the tuxedo, I mean, just he's got the mouth thing, and he's got like is it like a lip? I don't even know what to call that thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, if it's a culture thing, I totally, added in there. I thought it was just kind of a bit of a stretch and a distraction.
Maybe I'm absolutely that. It took me right out of it.
Uneducated, but I feel that way.
No, I think you can have really cool characters. I don't want to sound ignorant or anything like here, but I thought that was just a bit much. Where I know it's a fantasy culture and a fantasy land, but like to me, it was like you could have toned it down a little bit and still been like, oh, that's a cool subsect. But with this one, I was just like, yeah, this I thought looks bad. But not to harp on that too much. My baby arms has got to be Martin Freeman, and I love Martin Freeman as an actor. He's really good. I think he's in Fargo. He kills it. He's in like the Hobbit trilogy, which is really good. But like this, I just thought he was just like, Vic, you mentioned it's like 99% black acted. It kind of feels like they were like, we need a white guy in this movie.
And they made that one comment where it's like, oh, we gotta save another white guy after saving
Buddy's
life.
Did they say that? I missed that? Yeah. The one part I do like, kind of going back to Chadwick's character, that I really liked is that during your scene, Garrett, that you were talking about that you didn't like for worse scenes, where they're breaking out Claw. Martin Freeman's character, who is interrogating Claw, he gets shot and he's like gonna bleed out. Yeah. And Chadwick is like, we can't, like, we have to save him. And they're like, why would we save him? He's not one of us. And he's like, I can't let him die knowing that we can save him. And then they bring him back to Wakanda, and Shuri like fixes him in like one day, and he's like, bullets don't heal overnight. She's like, well,
here they do.
Yeah. And there's a like really great line where he says like, he's like, where am I? And she's like, oh, this is. Or she says like, this is in Kansas or something. And
Yeah.
I forget, but but I just thought like he was kind of thrown in. He's like, we meet him in the club, and then it's just like he doesn't like work for like Shield or anything, right? Or Shield. I don't even think Shield is.
I think he's just CIA in general.
He's like CIA, but he's just like super bland character where he like you said, Gary, he's not informed at all. Where he does, you think CIA?
Well, so he was inserted a little bit in the Civil War, and that's what hurts us a little bit as we skip the Civil War review.
Oh, is he in Civil War?
He's in Civil War a little bit. So I think he's part of the that act that they're trying to, like the Accordance. Remember how they're trying to get them to sign up for the
I don't know
Accordance?
though. I feel like it kind of speaks to that Civil War too, because I don't really remember him. And like,
Yeah.
if I don't, Civil War is one of my favorite movies. And if I don't remember like a whole character from Civil War, like I'm not saying that I'm not going to forget things, but like I don't think he's.
You'll remember once we see it.
Yeah.
So, you good?
Oh yeah, so just to kind of wrap up, so Martin Freeman I think is my baby arms, just because I just think his role was bad. It was poorly written. He's like flying the jet at the end, and I just didn't like his role at all. But
That's fair.
yeah, what do you have for baby arms this week?
For me, it's Wakabi. I believe that's how you say it. Daniel Kaluuya. So he's the guy from Get Out that we were talking about.
Oh, okay.
So he leads that tribe with like the rhinoceros or whatever the hell they are. My biggest gripe with him is him and T'Challa seem like they're like best friends throughout like the beginning stages of the movie. And his parents were killed when Claw like dropped a bomb on them like 20 years ago or whatever. So he really wanted revenge to get Claw. And because T'Challa failed one time to not get Claw, it's like he turned on him instantly. And at the end, he has a choice to fight for his true king, T'Challa, or fight for Killmonger. And he chose to fight for Killmonger, and that's what, like, it really pissed me off.
That was puzzling.
And you can, even when he fights, like, you can see he's not wholeheartedly trying to kill Black Panther because he's still torn. And I think at the end of the day, like, the one thing that I loved about T'Challa and Black Panther is his moral compass always pointing the right way. And that's, I guess, what kind of pissed me off about this specific character with Wakabi, because he was back and forth. They're best friends at the beginning. His lover is the general of the army.
He's dating Okoye, I think. Danai Guerrero's character.
The general. So, like, you know, him and if I had to put a second, Nakia Lupita Nyong'o, is that how you
doing two baby arms again?
Just saying, she would be a close second for me. She seems like she's a badass, but she never shows to be a badass. We know that she's the ex, but it's like I don't know. She bothered me. Like, she's kind of a big actor. She had a big breakthrough a few years ago. I forget what movie it was in, but she had a big breakthrough, and for a big actor like that, I expect her to have.
She felt like an afterthought in this movie.
Yeah, like I thought she was gonna have a little more presence, hearing that she was in the movie. Because I 12 Years a Slave or whatever that movie was. I think she was like a big character in that, and you know this was like right after. So when I heard she was in the movie, I'm like, wow, this is a huge cast, and she had kind of a small part. So she was fine, but for me, it was definitely the other guy for sure.
Cool. All right, so what would you guys do for an overall score on this one?
Oh boy.
Anybody want to go first? Can we take a stab at it?
I'll take a stab. Trying to remember all my other scores right now. It's getting kind of difficult. But I like this one at an 8.3. I think it's an awesome movie. I think it holds its own as a standalone film. I think for like a movie that can integrate Wakanda as a place on this earth, that all this is going on, and it's like they did a great job of explaining how this place exists without anyone on earth knowing about it, so it made it feel a little more realistic. It wasn't like, oh yeah, it's like there's just a place in Africa we don't know about that has the most advanced technology. They did a great job of, you know, explaining like, all right, why they are not being able to be found, how they disguised it, why they disguised their colony. Great scenes, great actors, great just performances throughout, and then also just kind of jumping in late into the MCU, even though we're jumping ahead in our whole rankings here. But a very, very good late entry, whereas every other Avenger has already had their origin story established, and this origin story came after the debut of the character.
Yeah.
And
This is like 4 movies before Endgame. This is like one of the final movies.
It's just, yeah, exactly. So for an origin story to come this late, I think they did an awesome job. I don't think, like we said earlier, there was not a lot of weak scenes. You can watch it, 2 hour and 15-minute movie. You can watch it from start to finish, non-stop, good movie. And so yeah, I put it a solid 8.3. It's not my highest movie, but it's definitely nowhere near the bottom.
Yeah, I'm a little bit higher on this movie than Garrett. Kind of some of the similar points he said. For me, this is a 9.2 for me. This is like, I really like this movie, and I liked it the first time. This is my second watch. I saw it in theaters originally in 2018. But yeah, rewatching this, and maybe that's because we've seen kind of the earlier movies, and we have some of the greatest MCU movies I think to come. But we jumped ahead, and yeah, you can tell for me right away that this is like a later MCU movie. Or like just between like the story arc, the production, the scale. But I think the number one thing for me is like I almost forgot this was an MCU movie, where it's just a great movie overall. I think, especially for like the Black community and like what it stands for, and just a great like peek inside that culture. Even if there's like a sci-fi spin on it, where I was like, I found myself kind of forgetting that it's like a superhero or an MCU movie. I was like, wow, this is. Because it feels, I think you guys might agree, like it feels different than a lot of the MCU movies, where it doesn't really have like we saw in Avengers, where it's like the New York scene where it's like this big battle. It's like we do get a big battle at the end, but I think for me a lot of it is grounded in reality, where like we get the opening scene where they're playing basketball, and they're struggling and they suffer loss, and they just a lot of that I think was good, and then the acting I think just brings it up the top with like Michael B. Chadwick was really good. Denai from Walking Dead, who plays Okoye, I think is her character as the general. We talked about really the guy from Get Out, which is not your strongest Avenger, but
I keep forgetting his name. It's killing me.
I forget his name.
Wakabi.
Oh, that guy from Get Out.
Yep.
Oh,
Wakabi.
But that's different from the guy that you picked?
No, that's what I picked.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Baby arms.
My bad, okay. Yeah, it's got him. There's just a lot of acting. Forrest Whitaker is in this movie.
Yes, and Sterling Brown, you brought up earlier.
Sterling Brown. Yeah, it's a powerhouse cast. I forgot, we didn't really touch on Forrest Whitaker, but that is kind of a big
Letitia Wright playing Shuri. I mean, from top to bottom, this is like...
It's a lot of talent.
This is the upcoming Black generation of actors, and it's amazing. I mean, these are the people that are going to replace Viola Davis, Denzel Washington, Chris Rock, like, and it's amazing to see. And again, it's also sad to know that we're not getting any more Chadwick going forward, and I'm holding back tears because the more I look into his death, the more I see how remarkable of a human being he was, and every role he took. What it seems to be like a passion thing for him, like something that he felt connected to and felt a part of. And for someone who put, I think it was 6 or 7 movies over 4 years while battling cancer.
Stage 3 cancer.
Yeah,
and then
terminal, literally terminal. And watching him kind of wither away his weight. It's funny. My fiance was like, "Wow, he looks really thin," because she loves the Marvel movies. And I said, "Yeah, it's probably for a role." And she was like, "Oh yeah, you're right." I'm like, and that just shows like, and I know some people probably did make fun of him, but for me, like, I saw his commitment and his dedication instead of seeing it as like a question mark. And I think he had that enthusiasm as an actor, and that's what's great to see. So before we go on too much of a tangent, I'll rank it for me. Before we take this on too far, let me check my notes. So I dropped Black Panther as 8.8. Which so far is my highest ranking. And since we all scored, I'll just go right into my ranking. So Black Panther just overcame Avengers. I was very high in Avengers. I love seeing them all come together. So Black Panther, Avengers, Iron Man 1, Captain America, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor, and then Hulk sitting at a low 5. So, Black Panther might drop down as we keep going. We did jump ahead quite a bit, but such a great movie, so powerful, so moving, so emotional, and I'm honored that we were able to review this movie in honor of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So before I get into my rankings, because everyone else has had a second to talk about Chadwick, and before he's his tragic death, I just want to give him a lot of respect for putting together all kind of going out on his own terms, knowing he had colon cancer and his time on this earth was limited. The work ethic to put in the time to create all these great movies in the short time left he had on this earth, to leave us with all these great films, is incredible and a lasting image and a testament to the person he was. And you can see it in even off the screen. I've heard stories about him, showing early screenings of Black Panther to other kids with cancer and stuff like that, just because they wouldn't be alive when it debuted. Just a really strong, remarkable human being who passed way too soon, and our condolences go out. But for my rankings, I didn't have Black Panther at the top. Let me pull it up here. I did have Avengers. Avengers is my number one, followed by Iron Man, Captain America 1, and then I have Black Panther coming in right now at number 4, right behind that. Iron Man 2 follows, followed by Iron Man 3, and then we have Thor, and then last, and definitely least, is The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and that's good because I know we missed you last week, Garrett, so good to get those updated.
I added those in. I was not here, but...
You did your homework.
Yes. No time lost.
Yeah. Again, not to harp on, I know we've touched on Chadwick a little bit here, but I think it's more than worthy of it. I mean, the number one thing I think of when thinking of Chadwick Boseman, he is like a real-life superhero. I mean, having... to your point, Garrett, when you said he filmed all those films, and there's been posts about this now, but 2016, I think he was diagnosed, and then all the movies came out after that, where it's Civil War came out, where we first see Black Panther, and then 42 came out. He's in a couple other movies, 21 Bridges, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's one other, and then obviously Black Panther, and it's he made 4 or 5 big movies. I mean, as a healthy human being, first of all,
that's a lot of work.
He was 43 when he
Incredible
died.
Perseverance.
Which is crazy young. I mean, 43 is so tragic. So he's in his late 30s when he's filming these. Again, for a healthy person, doing all the stunts and doing all the filming and just the days on set, that's all so exhausting. I can't imagine if you're dealing with stage 3 cancer at the same time. So yeah, I mean, and the fact that he hid it from everyone really besides his family. I mean, I think when the news broke this past weekend that he died, I'm pretty sure no one knew he was sick. It was
since 2016, he's released 9 movies.
Wow.
So the ones in 16 might have been filmed in 15, but
still, when
you find out you had cancer, you got premieres to go to and all that.
He could have shut it down.
Yeah, amazing.
Put his boots on and went to work.
And he didn't burden anyone with the news. He could have easily come out and said, "Hey, I'm battling cancer," and then I don't know if he wouldn't have gotten movie roles, but I'm sure he would have got sympathy from the whole world. But I mean, he literally kept this a secret to everyone besides his family until the very end, and it's talk about self-sacrifice. It's
and like you guys said, going out on his own terms.
Yeah.
He got his breakthrough, and we didn't even talk about Draft Day, which I love that movie. It's a super cheesy football movie, but even in that movie in 2014, one of his early movies, he plays an upcoming college football star going to the NFL draft, and he's an uncle raising his sister's kids. And he says, "I need this money, coach. I got kids to take care of." And that's his emphasis as to why he wants to get drafted so high, because he wants to take care of his niece and nephew. I mean,
he chose roles that kind of reflect him as a person.
It feels that way. From all of his speeches and everything we've seen about his presence, he's just a remarkable human being. Sorry, so back to your rankings.
Yeah, and sorry, just one last point, because I think it's a special episode, and I think it's fair that we touch on this. We were talking about this off camera a little bit, but for me, and I know, Gary, you said you didn't pick up on this at all. When I was watching Black Panther again, knowing the tragic news of Chadwick's passing, and for me, every time he, first of all, I couldn't get it subconsciously out of my brain that, every scene he's doing, whenever he looks, uncomfortable, for me, I was man, I can't imagine what he was dealing with, with that cancer at that moment, and he just, like you said, strapped up his boots and went to work, and it's so for me, it's weird, and Black Panther is always going to be different for me now when I rewatch it. I will always just think of, obviously what happened with Chadwick and, what he endured to film the movie, because he does a great job of hiding it, where, you really don't, he's not really, grimacing, I don't know. You wouldn't know. Like watching this movie, you have no idea that he would have had stage 3 cancer at that time. So he does a really great job of hiding it down there. But it was a little strange to watch that in a good way. But just to like, I'm just in awe of like what he did, because it's like, man, I mean, just working like a 40-hour week job, I'm like exhausted half the time, and it's like I can't imagine this dude like going filming a movie with cancer, and just mentally the toll that takes on you. But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But for my rankings, so if we remember last time, so far I've got Captain America: First Avenger at number 1 for me. I got Iron Man 2, which I swapped last week, I believe. Even though, and this is where my rankings get a little strange and maybe even a little confusing to me, but this is kind of how I'm doing it. So even though I have Iron Man 1 as a higher overall score than Iron Man 2, personally, the movie I would rather rewatch again, or the movie I enjoy more, for me is Iron Man 2 at number 2, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 3. Those are kind of interchangeable, similar to what Nigel said last week. Then I have Avengers at 5, because I wasn't as high as these guys were on Avengers. I know that's like taboo, but then we got Thor and then Incredible Hulk. For this one, it goes at number 2, right below Captain America. So the overall ranking actually does match up for me here, where I think I gave Cap 1 9.3 and Black Panther I'm giving 9.2, but it's tough because they're very different movies, and they mean very different things culturally, but I love both of these movies, and I think I thought about giving it number 1, but I think for me, like, the first Captain America is just really, really damn good, and so is this movie. But it slides in at number 2. I could put this movie on at any time, and there's some awesome scenes, and yeah, I was really, really happy with this movie. All right, guys, so that's our review of Black Panther for Reviewers Assembled. Thank you so much for joining us again for a special episode. I know we kind of mixed the timeline up here, but yeah, please like, comment, subscribe if you can. Again, we got some upgraded lighting here, so hopefully we're not being blinded here, but hopefully that looks a little bit better on camera. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Once again, just condolences to the Boseman family and their tragic loss, and just hopefully, they can just show them some love, because I'm sure they're going through a really tough time right now, especially with Chadwick, how young he was and everything like that. So, yeah, but, one last thing we just want to say is Wakanda forever.